Trade reports for Captain Brad Marchand are continuing to heat up as we are less than 24 hours away from the NHL trade deadline. A recent report has revealed that teams are still calling on Brad Marchand more than ever with little time to go, and teams are looking to add right now. We're going to be talking about this, what updates we have here on Brad Marchand, as well as a few other moves that the Bruins had made over the last day before, since our last video. Before we get into this video, though, we are currently at 5,903 subscribers. We're less than 100 away from the goal of 6,000, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching this video right now, you're looking for your Bruins news, hit the sub button if you haven't already. Get us that 6,000 mark, and you'll get all of your Bruins news as it happens. But without any further ado, let's get into the few moves here that happened first before we hop into our Marchand stuff. This happened here earlier today. The Boston Bruins have signed Tyler Pitlick to a one-year, two-way contract through 24-25 with the NHL cap hit of $775,000. Now, we're looking at this move as solely a move to fill in some of that depth that we lost with a guy like Max Jones, with a guy like Trent Frederic. Down in the AHL, was placed on waivers today in purpose of getting down to the Providence Bruins. And with the second move, the Nashville Predators have claimed Jordan Oesterle off waivers from the Boston Bruins, with the intent of him, of course, going to Providence. Now he is no longer here with us on this team after, a pretty okay time in the NHL. But when it comes to the big notes here we have Brad Marchand. Don't mind that surprising trade candidate, because he is certainly one that a lot of people have been talking about. Chris Johnson had this to say on Twitter here earlier today. While the Bruins continue to go back and forth with Brad Marchand on a possible contract extension, word is they're still open to potentially trading their captain. Teams calling with interest aren't being told no right now. Now, this is a major update from what we've last heard regarding Brad Marchand. This is the first time we've actually got some sort of concrete answer about what the response is from the Boston Bruins. Initially, it was all kind of speculation what we were hearing. Brad Marchand saying he didn't want to be traded. Reports just coming out saying that the Bruins were interested or, kind of entertaining the idea, but nothing was ever really coming out of it. Now we have from Chris Johnson, one of the most credible reporters in the NHL, that teams are not being told no on Brad Marchand. Now, this created an absolute uproar on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it, after this event from Bruins fans, Bruins analysts, people kind of going, crazy over the idea that Brad Marchand could be traded here at this deadline. And with the way that the deadline has been panning out so far, and, with a lot of moves already made before the deadline, tomorrow I'm expecting to see quite a bit more, but Brad Marchand is one that I'm not really sure on. We're looking at options here from Brad Marchand as being your captain, being a guy that many teams would like to have to be able to add to a playoff team, add to, a top six, a middle six, wherever you want to put him. Of course, he is still week to week of that injury, but with the way his performance has impacted not just this season, but, his entire career, he's going to be a hot commodity for teams if reports like this are coming out where teams are being told that he is an option. Now, when we're looking at who it could be, there's been many teams that we've speculated. Edmonton Oilers, the Toronto Maple Leafs, that one I dislike incredibly, and I don't see that one happening. But, there's a few other teams in the West that have been looking for a guy like Brad Marchand. A lot of teams using the LTIR factor, and what came out today from the Edmonton Oilers is that Evander Kane is not skating, back-to-back heavy skating days, and gives him the ability to go on the LTIR tomorrow to create more cap space for the Edmonton Oilers. And that cap space will be just enough to fit Brad Marchand. And with all that kind of speculation and Chris Johnson reporting this, we really have to look at what else is coming out. Now, when we do look at, of course, Brad Marchand's contract, $6.125 million in the final year of his deal, he is going to be 37 when this contract expires. Now, you really have to think about what would be the benefit of the Bruins, of course, trying to re-sign Brad Marchand. And, I'm all for it. I want to see him back, but it really is a tough look when you see the Bruins' position now. You see what he could garner in a trade, and you see, the age, the contract, really everything kind of be put into the puzzle. It creates a lot of controversy about what the Bruins should really do, and what you want and what should happen may be different in this situation. And for sure, I do think that is a big factor here when it does come down to it. But I do have another quote here from Jimmy Murphy, and this is what he had to say. I was told the same team source yesterday, but A, teams were wary of the upper body injury, and B, the Bruins will not do it unless Marchand is 100% on board, which to this point, he is not. So it still does come down to Brad Marchand having the final say in this deal. He's come out and said that he wants to be a Bruin, but it really does also come into his contract negotiations. And as that initial report there from Chris Johnson said, He is in contract negotiations. They still haven't gotten really too far anywhere with that. Marchand don't like talking about his contract in the public, so we really don't have any idea apart from what reports are saying it could be priced at, and a likely 3-year deal is what he's been asking for. But it really is interesting to break it down into how the teams, I guess we could say, will really, value his contract. The Boston Bruins want him to stay, probably at a cheaper price than many other teams. Other teams may be willing to overpay for him, will be willing to pay for him more in free agency if a contract does not get done. Because when you're looking at him in this year's trade value, he will bring in quite a bit of, assets to give to the Bruins to be able to make this retool a one-off season thing rather than a couple years. And that's where this really comes down to the fan perspective and the business perspective is when you're looking at this, or I'll switch over this one here, the Bruins Network tweet right here. Brad Marchand is an excellent player despite injuries and age, but he's still someone you'd have to replace both on and off the ice. That said, you think Marchand could potentially get you a game-changing return, and it would probably make sense to trade him in that case. And unfortunately, that's where my mind is at as well. Obviously, I don't want to trade him. I don't want to see him traded. But when it does come down to a move like this, when it does come down to a potential, altering franchise move, there are opportunities where the Bruins would need to do that if they want to actually come back next season and be competitive rather than wasting contracts, wasting age on David Pastrnak, wasting years on players' contracts, and a lot of these rookies that you want to get in and, get into a full regular lineup. Brad Marchand would be able to bring you those assets and bring you to where you want to go. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing heavily over the next, 12 to 18 hours with the Boston Bruins. I'm really kind of pointing towards the direction of either a contract will be signed or a trade will be had. I don't see him really kind of going out over the deadline with no contract or without any uncertainty. I feel like Marchand wants to have that locked down for sure and really not have to go out in free agency and really compete with other teams and kind of go through that whole system. But we do have another kind of a little update here as well when it does come down to who else is being involved in Bruins trade talks. They are continuing to take calls on Brandon Carlo, Morgan Geekie, Justin Brazeau, as well as a New York Rangers report with Pavel Zacha. So, a lot of the Bruins' best players this season are still being in consideration for trades. And with 1 day left in the deadline, less than 24 hours now at this point, the Boston Bruins are going to have to make some more moves. They cannot afford to let a lot of these guys walk. They need to get the value when available so they don't go into a full rebuild. But I want to know what you guys think about this Brad Marchand thing. It's a very interesting update to where we were previously. And, it's kind of a scary thing to look at as we do progress over the next few days as it does come into the deadline and after the deadline and, that kind of storm that comes with that as well. But let me know what you think in the comments below with a Marchand trade. Do you want to see him go? Do you want him not? Has your opinion changed? I know the unanimous decision really is no right here, but it has to be at some point thought of in a different way. Let me know what you think, but that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.